Hey everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and today I'm going to talk about something that I haven't really heard about I haven't heard anybody else talking about, but it's something that's been very useful for me. So what I'm going to talk about today is thrifting. Lots of people have talked about game thrifting, finding good deals in thrift stores and things of that nature, and I'm not exactly talking about that. I'm talking about thrifting for parts. Specifically, going to the thrift store like it's a scrapyard, looking for massive quantities of parts for prototypes. So, some of the things that I found that are really good for this, two in particular I'm going to highlight. First one is Trivial Pursuit. So, Trivial Pursuit has a couple of things going for it as far as pillaging for parts. First of all, the box isn't bad. Even old versions of Trivial Pursuit have a pretty good box when it comes right down to it. So that's something useful you can take from Trivial Pursuit. In addition, Trivial Pursuit usually has a quad-fold board. So it's a square, which is highly useful if you need a square board. Whether you need one square board that quad folds or four individual square boards. It's really easy to cut it along the folds and turn them into backings for player boards. They're decent sized, a little bit bigger than you would probably normally use, but it is an option. However, the most useful thing in Trivial Pursuit is not the pie pieces. I still haven't found a use for those yet, although I'm working on it. Is this right here. This little card box, and, more importantly, the hundreds of cards inside. Every copy of Trivial Pursuit comes with one or two of these, pretty much. This is incredibly useful for storing prototypes, for storing lots of cards in general, and each and every one of these cards is very good as a backing card inside of a sleeve for a prototype. It doesn't matter what they say, it doesn't matter which side you use facing forward. These are not very sturdy, but they're sturdy enough that they work well in prototypes. I happen to have several prototypes now that are currently backed with Trivial Pursuit cards. The other great thing about Trivial Pursuit as a thing to scavenge for parts is that Trivial Pursuit is cheap, and they usually have a whole bunch of copies. I was able to get 3 different copies of Trivial Pursuit for about $5 because they just had so many sitting around. I've even run into, if you have any local game stores that purchase games, or half-price books in your area, they often have just copies of Trivial Pursuit stacked up that you can get for really cheap or even free, depending on where you go. Trivial Pursuit also usually has dice. For whatever reason, this copy that I got out to show you doesn't actually have the dice in it. But even then, I don't use dice in a lot of my designs, but that's one thing there that I found really useful. The other game that I found to be incredibly useful as spare parts when thrifting is our good friend Risk, and this is a much older version. Now, the reason why Risk is great for prototyping, first of all, Risk has dice, so you can always get dice, and different editions have different color dice, but almost all of them are the square-edged, sharp-cornered casino-style dice, so you can often mix and match. Risk also typically has cards. It won't give you as many as Trivial Pursuit. However, most copies of Risk, the cards are much better quality. They're like playing card quality stock. Trivial Pursuit cards are a little bit flimsier, and I would only use them in sleeves. However, Risk cards are usually playing card quality, even though there's fewer of them. In addition, Risk can give you a really big board. Most versions of Risk have extremely large boards. Most of them are square in shape, although some of the later editions are rectangles that are longer than they are tall. It just depends on which edition of Risk you get. Either way, it's a solid board. You can definitely use it. However, the most important thing that Risk comes with are these. Risk always has army pieces for multiple players. So this is an old copy of Risk, like a really old copy, so it still has the wooden bits. So it has wooden blocks in 6 different colors. This particular one came with red, green, black, blue, pink, and then it also has the larger army colors, which are actually these really neat, like, triangle-shaped pieces that I haven't seen in anything else. Later versions of Risk will come with plastic pieces. If you get some from, I think, the 70s, then you can get, like, little plastic, like, 3 points and asterisks and everything like that that stand in for the different numbers of armies. But Risk is a really good source of bits for resources. If you can't buy a bunch of resource cubes, you can buy a copy of Risk and get an absolute ton of them for really cheap. I actually picked up this copy of Risk for free. The game store that had it was trying to unload a whole bunch of games that were used games that they weren't able to sell because the boxes were split in this case, among other things. Even though they were used, they weren't able to offload them, so they just basically set them on a table and said free to a good home. So I just picked it up for free and got all of those nice wooden bits for no money at all. In another one of my games, Elements, I actually have double-sided tokens, and I don't know if you can see above my head right there is a copy of Othello that I picked up. And Othello has the double-sided tokens in plastic, the black and white tokens. They were absolutely perfect for prototypes. They're satisfying, they have heft to them, and I couldn't have asked for a better double-sided token to use just in general for prototyping. So next time you go into the thrift store as a game designer, don't just look for getting good deals. Look at getting good deals for parts, because the thrift stores that in this area particularly are absolutely full of them. You could also pick up Seen It or any of the myriad trivia games out there. They all have cards. At the very least, you can use them to back cards. I know one of the games I got for free was the Austin Powers trivia game. I have absolutely no interest in playing the Austin Powers trivia game, but all of the cards were decent quality card stock and make really good backing cards for prototypes. So, yeah, that's something that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. You know, people talk about thrift stores and good deals, but people don't talk about digging through them and scavenging for pieces for prototypes, and I thought I'd go ahead and address that. Anyway, hope this was helpful. Bearded Rogue, talk to you later.